Hello and welcome to Northants Authors YouTube channel. I'm Morgan Bailey, one of the authors of Northants Authors, and just here to tell you a little bit about us. We are a cooperative of mainly self-published but also traditionally published authors who live within the county of Northamptonshire, England, and have books, whether it's ebooks or paperbacks, for sale. We attend local events and it's great meeting our public. And of course they love the fact that they can have books signed by us to keep and read themselves or to give as presents. This series is a little way of getting to know us better and hear extracts from our books. I hope you enjoy. We hope you enjoy them.
Hello, my name is Joy Burnett and I am here today to read you an excerpt from my first book, On the Loose. I have written others and I'm on my third. My second was called All at Sea, is a book of short stories. As I stepped away from the bed, I suddenly caught sight of myself in the mirror. Not bad, I thought, for a 42-year-old. I liked what I saw, and realised the soft glow on my skin and the sparkle in my eyes was due to the glorious sex that I'd just had with Tony. My hair was tousled, and I still had a distinct upward curve on my kiss-reddened lips. What an inventive lover he was turning out to be. He used his beautiful hands to caress and pleasure my body as if he was playing a piece of music, and I was learning how to tease and excite him too. He had taken me along pathways that I had never previously explored. How different I am now. I hardly recognised myself. Tony is the youngest of my lovers so far, and I think he's number 5 or 6. It's amazing what 2 years on the loose can do for a girl. Late in the afternoon, the early spring of 2002, I received a phone call that was to change my life and my whole perception of love, attraction and sex. The sun was shining in through my tiny hall window, making patterns on the dusky carpet, and my little pale tabby cat Flo was curled up, taking a nap on the hall windowsill when the phone rang. Slightly miffed at her rest being disturbed, she mewed, stretched and jumped down as I walked into the hall and picked up the phone. Hello? Who? What do you mean? The stranger on the other end of the phone told me his name and why he was calling. I caught my breath as I realised that what he was saying. My husband was having an affair with his wife, and did I know? And what was I going to do about it? I realised I wasn't breathing. I tried to take a breath, which ended in a gulp, and I could feel my face crumbling and tears rushing into my eyes. I cleared my throat and tried to answer, but the tone of my voice sounded clipped and strained. For how long? I spluttered as I sat down on the bottom step of the stairs. You know this for certain? No, I didn't. And how long did you say? Yes, I will. I'll have to talk to him. Absolutely not. Give me your number then. I took a deep, shuddering breath and wrote his name and number on the pad, and when the call ended, I put my head in my hands and wept. 6 months later, I had come to terms with the fact that my husband had been seeing someone else for 2 years and was planning to tell me, but the someone else's husband found out first, and he had forced a showdown. The lady in question, Sophie, looked like someone out of a Norse legend, tall, blonde, slim and perfectly toned, with creamy skin, no kids, therefore no stretch marks or saggy boobs, and she and my husband had just upped and off together, and now they were living somewhere in Surrey. I'd done with crying and hating him, changing the locks, sorting out things and being bitter and angry. 23 years of marriage and he had left without a backward glance. Or at least, no idea of how it tore my heart to see him go. In the July, my 41st birthday came and went. I drank a whole bottle of Chardonnay that day and felt terrible the next. I was throwing up and crying and feeling sorry for myself when Brian had phoned and told me that he'd continue to pay the mortgage on the house, on condition I supported myself. He made it absolutely clear he wasn't going to provide anything more. It seemed a bit harsh, and I shouted my misery down the phone at him. Afterwards, as I began to feel better, I realised I was lucky. I had a lovely house in Stokesley, an exceptionally good village. If he continued to pay the mortgage, I could get another better paid job to support myself. I made up my mind that I still had a good few years in me yet. I was healthy and capable of working, and he could go fuck himself. I was by now sexually frustrated, felt rejected and unloved. I missed the warmth of Brian's body and even the rather unsatisfactory lovemaking. It's a complicated business between sex and love. Where do they meet and separate? I had loved Brian since sixth form, or at least I thought I had. And other than a quick fumble with an oversexed worker on my first Christmas party at the office of Kenton's, I had never experienced another man. I know that a couple of nimble fingers and a bit of fantasy, I could easily arrive at orgasm, and considerably sweeter than the rather hurried, rather sweaty orgasms with Brian. Nevertheless, I thought we'd had a good marriage. We enjoyed the same things, had 2 lovely sons and many mutual friends. I thought he was a man of honour. Instead, he turned out to be a lying, cheating bastard. At that time, I thought I'd never be able to trust another man again. On a bright, sunny Sunday afternoon, my friend Tally arrived with a big box of my favourite chocolates and plenty of good advice. We sat drinking cappuccinos in the garden whilst chatting about the local gossip, and then I told her how little cock Brian was being a pain about money, and how I couldn't talk to him without losing it and crying. It somehow helped calling him little cock. I don't know why. Ridiculous, really, as I had nothing to compare it with. Tally was sympathetic and listened while I prattled on about the underpaid job I was doing and how unappreciated I felt. It's a wonderful thing having women friends. They let you talk. They turn up with chocolates, wine and tissues the minute relationships go wrong, and offer completely biased sympathy such as, "He wasn't worth it, you know," or "always was up his own backside," and gleefully pick over why you're better off without him. True to form, Tally said, "You haven't been together for a long time, Laura. You'll soon find someone else." When do I ever get to meet a man? All I do is work and shop and mow the lawn. Not much fun there. She, on the other hand, had a much more interesting tale to tell, as she was deeply into an apparently fabulous sexual relationship with Mark, who was at least 10 years younger than she was, not very bright, but with the body like Adonis. Talia and I have been friends for years, and she was an integral part of my life, bringing her youthful optimism and wit into my sometimes dreary and dull married life. She's more than 10 years younger than me, crazy and beautiful. Curvy body, long glossy dark hair that swings as she moves. She flicked it back as she laughed. "He's doing me the power of good. You know what rotters I've managed to get involved with before." This is just sex, and it really is fun, Laura. Talia is so good-natured and generous that men have taken advantage of her. She has a thriving business designing rooms for hotels and is making more money than most of the men she's been seeing over the past couple of years. She oozes good energy and always smells of roses. Leaning over, she tickled Flo behind her ear, setting off a rumbling purr from my satisfied cat. "Doesn't it bother you that Mark is so under-endowed intellectually and mentally?" I asked. "Not a bit, darling. I like him. He's a sweetie." "No, it doesn't bother me one bit." Smiling, I said, "Don't you need, love and attention and someone to talk to, even if it is after? Wouldn't you rather have someone with a bit more intellect?" "Oh," said Tally, screwing up her nose and closing her eyes in mock disdain. "I get plenty of attention, and I've done lots of love bits. If you can find me someone with a good body and a bit of intellect that's also interesting as well, go ahead. I think it's impossible to get everything in one package. Just look at my track record. In the past 4 years, I've had 3 relationships, plus a few one-night stands. And did any of them have much to offer? No. They're either sexy or interesting, never both, and right now I want sexy and a bit of fun." She thought for a moment. "All my friends have settled for tolerable sex in exchange for babies, security, familiarity, occasional conversation, and from what I hear it is occasional, plus an acceptable social life. But not one of them is having as much fun as I'm having with Mark." She looked thoughtful. "And he's so good-looking." Then she laughed. "And he takes his washing home to his mum." "Oh, sorry, darling, did that hit a nerve?" she asked, looking at my stricken face. "I didn't mean you." But isn't that exactly what I'd done with Brian? It was as if she had been talking about me. You're right, of course, the sex is only occasionally. I screwed up my face and grinned. In fact, barely tolerable sometimes, but our social life had been good. Conversation practically stopped when Jo was born. Fun? No, not much of that. I guess I'm really a typical example of an unfulfilled woman who settled for a nice man, for comfort and support and children. There have been many times when I've been aware that our marriage was not really good, and I'd often wonder if this were normal. I'd never let my expectations get out of hand and tolerated Brian's moods and selfishness, telling myself I was lucky to have such a good, hard-working husband and 2 lovely, healthy sons. It would be nearly 2 years later that I would be able to relate to Tally and her toy boy and the fun they were having.